What's going on, guys? Thanks so much for joining me today. So today we're in the gorgeous Peak District National Park and it is beautiful, cold, windy, and the clouds are quite dramatic. So today we've come to take some landscape photography shots and also talk about why I moved from full frame Nikon to the FUJI-X system. Now it's something I get asked quite a lot in the comments, so I thought it'd be really good to just go over this today and have a chat about it, why I decided to change and whether I think it was a good idea 2 years down the line. So I'm going to take a little walk around, find a few different compositions, and I'll chat while we're on the way. So I hear quite a bit on forums and on YouTube as well that gear doesn't matter, and to a certain extent I believe this is the case. But if you're shooting for a client and that client is paying you good money, then you need to make sure your gear is a professional quality standard. Now, I used to shoot with the Nikon D610 and the Nikon D800 for wedding photography for my paying customers. Now, this is my full-time job, so I had to make sure I've got the best quality gear that I could get at the time, and also had some very, very nice Sigma glass as well. I had a 35mm 1.4 Nikon Prime, which I use pretty much for most of my work, and I also had the Sigma 70-200 2.8. So when I was shooting weddings, I was shooting with two bodies at the same time, so 35mm for the close-in stuff and the 70-200 for everything else. You know, getting to the back of the service during the speeches where I needed to get up close to the ring shots, that type of thing. I'd use the 70-200 so I could switch between the two as I needed to. Now the problem was, you're getting towards the end of the day, carrying this amount of gear on your shoulders around was absolutely killing me, especially when I was doing back-to-back weddings. For me, I needed to reduce the weight because what I was finding I was doing is I was just shooting with one body when I kind of got towards the speeches or the evening do, and then I was missing shots because I didn't have my other camera and my longer lens with me. So I needed to do something about it, and this is when I started looking into the FUJI-X system. I didn't think before the X-T2 came out there was a camera capable of matching what the full frame Nikons could produce. Now the Nikons are fantastic cameras, absolutely brilliant. I wouldn't hear a bad word said against them. They really are really good quality cameras and they produce stunning images, they really do. But it was about weight for me, and it was a massive, massive issue. So I looked into the X-T2 when it first came out. Obviously it got the dual card slots, which I desperately needed for doing professional work. And it also got a wealth of really, really good quality glass, and that's really what attracted me to the system, really. Those two things and the weight as well. So just to put this in perspective, you can get an X-T2, an X-T3, a 5140 2.8, an 18 to 55 f2.8 to f4, and the 10 to 24 f4 with batteries and cards for the weight of a Nikon D810 and a 70-200. So just put that into perspective. In fact, all of that Fuji gear weighs 20 grams less than a single Nikon D800 and 70-200 lens, which is incredible, especially when you're carrying that around with you all day long. So on top of that, I decided I was going to take landscape photography more seriously as well 2 years ago. So this again became an issue with weight. Obviously I wanted to carry my stuff on long hikes. I didn't want to be carrying around huge amounts of gear. So this is what led me to look into the Fuji system. Now what I decided to do was to pick up an X-T2 and shoot weddings with the X-T2 and the D800 together. So I wasn't ready to just kind of bin off my Nikon gear. I kind of proceeded with both for a good sort of 6 months or so, and when I was bringing the images into Lightroom I was finding it difficult to match the two. They look different, they do. You know, the D800 obviously has its advantages. It's got a 36 megapixel sensor to it. Obviously the file sizes are larger. I think it probably copes with noise a little bit better. Dynamic range is very similar, but you know, the Fuji has got a different look about it, and it's a kind of look that I always tended to go towards anyway, a more filmic look with my documentary images. So it was kind of difficult matching the two. I was finding I had to do a little bit more work to the Nikon files to get them to look like the Fuji files. So it wasn't really working in terms of using two separate cameras. And because I was shooting with two bodies, I was finding I was fumbling around a bit because I was shooting with the X-T2. Then I was pulling the Nikon D800 up, and obviously it's much better if you've got two cameras that are exactly the same. So I then had to make a decision what I was going to do, whether I was going to stick with a Nikon or whether I was going to go completely to Fuji. And I think what I decided I was going to do is take a closer look at the images and have a good think about, was I going to lose anything? And the conclusion that I come to was that no, I wasn't going to lose any quality in the image. I've done a lot of comparisons because I'd never really print above A2. The extra megapixels that the Nikon offered didn't really come into play because the 24 or 26 megapixels that the X-T2 and the X-T3 have are more than enough for printing up to A2, and I never print any larger than that at the minute anyway. So it really, I really didn't need that extra amount of megapixels, if you like. So yeah, I had to make the decision and decided to, obviously sell my Nikon gear and go completely with the FUJI-X system. So I'm going to walk a bit further up here, take a look up here, see if I can find any other images that I can take today, and then I'll talk you through whether I think it was the right decision to make 2 years down the line. So let me just quickly talk you through what I've got set up on the camera. I've got a 3-stop grad on, I've got the wide lens on, so I think we're at about 23mm, f8 looking straight down the valley. I've got this rocky outcrop down here in the foreground with a boulder which sits on the top of it, which is kind of anchoring the left bottom third. And then the light's coming through the clouds and hitting different parts of the landscape, and yeah, it's looking quite nice actually. This time of year all the heather's died off and everything's quite brown looking, and even the silver birch trees are looking quite dull actually at the minute as well. So it's quite a flat looking image in terms of colour, but I think it's quite dramatic, the clouds and the light coming through the clouds, so hopefully it'll be a decent shot. So I hope you enjoy it guys. I'll stick it on the screen now and let me know what you think. So initially, I think autofocus was my main concern. I think the autofocus on the D800 was better than the X-T2. But as time went by, Fuji added some firmware updates and it gradually improved, and I think it's a much better camera than it first came out for sure. But now the X-T3's out, the X-T3's autofocus is lightning fast, it really is. And the video capabilities of the X-T3 are just incredible. It really is a fantastic hybrid camera, I think. All in all, I think now looking back, obviously the D800's an older version. We've got the D850, which is obviously an upgrade on that. But similar sort of cameras really. Both cameras still produce fantastic images, there's no doubt about it. And I wouldn't hear a bad word said against the Nikon cameras. They've been fantastic for me for many, many years. And I still miss them now. I mean, definitely for studio work, I think having the optical viewfinder is more beneficial than having a digital viewfinder. I think for me anyway. And I think sometimes my eyes do get a little tired when I'm looking through the digital viewfinder for long periods of time. Maybe if I'm shooting the speeches and it's a long, there's a lot of people speaking, maybe if it's an hour and a half, I'll have the camera up to my face for probably an hour of that. So yeah, it can get a bit taxing on the eyes, but the digital viewfinders on the Fujis are fantastic. So, and I think as well, obviously with the digital viewfinder, we've got the what you see is what you get kind of thing. So basically you know what your exposure is going to be before you take the shot, where obviously the old DSLRs, you didn't have that, partly it's educated guesswork. So obviously when you approach the scene in front of you and you've got to take an image quick, if you're an aperture priority, you've got to dial in the exposure compensation that you think is right. It is guesswork, it's educated guesswork, and obviously the more experience you have, the better you are at that. But there's still times where, for example, shooting weddings when you're outside, 1 minute you're inside the next, and forgot to change the settings and you've missed a shot. So having what you see is what you get digital viewfinder definitely helps get more shots. So all in all, I'm definitely getting more shots at weddings with the Fujis, because weight means I've always got two bodies on, and obviously digital viewfinder means I'm definitely getting more keepers. Even at the beginning, when maybe the autofocus wasn't as good, I was still getting more keepers than I was with the Nikon DSLRs, but that's probably just me. Other people might be different, but yeah, so all in all, I think as well is cost. And obviously the D800 or the D850 is an expensive camera, you know, it's a fantastic quality camera, but it is expensive. So for example, you can get an XT3, you can get the 50 to 140 2.8, the 18 to 55 kit lens, the 10 to 24 lens. You will have £650 spare, equaling the cost of a D800 and a Sigma 70 to 200. So that will buy you a used XT2 body, so you can end up with two bodies and three lenses for the same price. And to be honest, you know, the images are very similar. So, you know, it's one of them. And looking back now, I completely think it was the right decision for me personally. Mainly because I wanted to save the weight for my shoulders while shooting weddings. I wanted to save the weight while I was doing my landscape photography adventures, and also wanted a very good quality capable video camera, and the XT2 and the XT3 even more so really do match that. So there are my thoughts, and obviously with gear, it all depends on the job that you're doing. And you know, if you're just shooting landscapes, you might have a different opinion. If you're just shooting weddings, you might have a different opinion. But what I'm doing is kind of an all-round type of thing. I'm doing a lot of different things, and these cameras suit everything that I do currently. Not printing above A2, I'm not missing that extra resolution that the full frame Nikons had. All in all, you know, yeah, super stoked with them, to be honest. As you can probably tell by the amount of times I've gone about them on the channel. Okay, right, I'm going to see if I can find a shot for sunset. I don't, well, whether we're going to get sunset or not, I don't know, but it'd be great if I could, so. So sadly the sunset didn't arrive, and nor did the light. It's been very grey and overcast this evening. Now there's some fantastic rock formations in this area, but they do really need good light to make them work, and we just haven't had that this evening. So it's not a problem, it's all part of the adventure of landscape photography, and no doubt I'll come back here in the future and get some amazing light. So I'm staying positive. So guys, if you enjoy the channel, please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell if you want to be notified next time I make an upload. And if you really liked it, give us a thumbs up, really appreciate that, would really help me out. And if you feel others would like it, you know, consider sharing it too. All right guys, we'll see you soon.